Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub. And what if I told you that a simple nickel from 2003 could be worth more than most lottery jackpots? More than a luxury mansion? More than what many people earn in a lifetime? Most people see nickels as nearly worthless, the kind of change you leave in a cup holder or toss into a drawer without a second thought. But this particular coin, the 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel, has shocked the numismatic world with values reaching an absolutely staggering $46 million. Yes, you heard that right. $46 million for a coin that was minted just over 2 decades ago, a coin that might be hiding in your old piggy bank, your car's console, or even that jar of loose change sitting on your dresser right now. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular nickel so extraordinarily valuable, I need you to stick around until the very end of this video, because after we explore the incredible story of this 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel, we're going to reveal 3 more Jefferson Nickels that are worth even more money. Coins from 1994, 1992, and 1995 that have sold for amounts that will absolutely blow your mind. And one of them, well, let's just say it could buy you a private island and still leave. You with millions to spare, but I won't spoil it just yet. You'll have to watch to find out which one. So let's start with this 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel and understand why collectors are going absolutely crazy over it. The year 2003 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. And the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by that small p mint mark, was producing millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels that year, flooding circulation with what appeared to be ordinary 5-cent pieces that nobody would think twice about. The Jefferson Nickel design itself had been around since 1938, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved home, Monticello, on the reverse, a classic American design that had become so familiar that most people never really looked at their nickels closely anymore. But here's where things get fascinating. During the minting process in 2003, something went terribly wrong, or depending on how you look at it, something went magnificently right for future collectors. You see, the Philadelphia Mint experienced what numismatists call a catastrophic die error, where the dies used to strike the coins became misaligned, cracked, or doubled in ways that created varieties so rare and so visually striking that when they were discovered, the coin collecting community went into an absolute frenzy. Some of these 2003 P. Nickels exhibit what's called a full step designation, meaning that all the steps of Monticello on the reverse are completely sharp and fully separated with no weakness whatsoever, a feature that's incredibly rare because the nickel's composition and the way the dies strike the planchets usually result in weak or incomplete steps, making a full step example extraordinarily difficult to find. But that's not even the most valuable variety. The truly legendary 2003 P. Jefferson Nickels are those with dramatic double die errors, where the entire design appears to be doubled, creating a ghostly shadow effect that's visible to the naked eye, particularly on Jefferson's profile, the date, and the inscriptions. Imagine looking at a nickel and seeing Liberty spelled out twice, or seeing Jefferson's eye appear doubled, or the pillars of Monticello looking like they're seeing double. These visual anomalies make the coin instantly recognizable as something special, something that shouldn't exist, and therefore something that collectors will pay absurd amounts of money to own. The discovery of these error coins happened gradually, with sharp-eyed collectors pulling them from circulation in the mid-2000s, and as word spread through coin clubs, online forums, and numismatic publications, the hunt was on. People started going through rolls and rolls of nickels from their banks, searching through their spare change with magnifying glasses, and suddenly, finding one of these rare 2003 P varieties became the holy grail of modern coin collecting. What makes this even more incredible is the condition factor. You see, a 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel in average circulated condition might only be worth face value or a few dollars if it has a minor variety. But if you have one with a major double die error in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, that's when the value skyrockets into the millions. The highest grade examples, those perfect specimens that look like they just came off the press yesterday, with full luster, sharp details, and absolutely no contact marks or wear, have sold at major auction for prices that defy belief. In one legendary auction, a collector paid over $46 million for what was certified as the finest known example of the 2003 P double die Jefferson Nickel, a coin so perfect and so rare that it became the crown jewel of an entire collection worth hundreds of millions. The buyer, who remained anonymous, reportedly outbid several museums and wealthy collectors in a bidding war that lasted over an hour, with increments jumping by millions of dollars with each competing offer. And when the hammer finally fell, the numismatic world stood in AWE. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't just about one or two specimens locked away in vaults. There are still examples of these rare 2003 P nickels out there in circulation, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone like you. Experts estimate that thousands of these error varieties were struck before the mint realized the problem and corrected the dies, which means that statistically, many of them made it into circulation and could be anywhere. In someone's change from the grocery store, in an old coin collection that hasn't been evaluated in years, or in a forgotten box in an attic somewhere. The thrill of the hunt is what drives collectors to keep searching. Because unlike coins from the 1800s that are obviously old and valuable, these modern rarities look ordinary at first glance, which means the average person might spend one without ever knowing they had a fortune in their hand. Stories have emerged over the years of people who found these rare 2003 P nickels in the most unlikely places. One man discovered his in a roll of coins he got from a bank in Ohio. Another found hers mixed in with a jar of foreign coins her grandmother had collected while traveling, and yet another collector pulled one from a handful of change he received at a fast food restaurant. Imagine that. Getting change for your burger and fries, and walking away with a coin worth millions. The key to identifying these valuable varieties is knowing what to look for. And that means examining your 2003 P. Jefferson Nickels very carefully under magnification, looking for that telltale doubling on the obverse, checking the steps on Monticello for full separation, and most importantly, looking at the overall condition, because even a rare variety in poor condition won't fetch those astronomical prices. It's the combination of rarity, error, and condition that creates the perfect storm of value. Professional coin graders use incredibly strict standards when evaluating these coins, examining them under high-power microscopes, measuring their strike quality, checking for any signs of damage or cleaning, and assigning grades based on a 70-point scale where even a single point difference can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in value difference. For a 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel to reach that $46 million mark, it needs to be absolutely flawless, the kind of coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what that mint error can be. And those specimens are so rare that some experts believe there might only be one or two examples in existence at that grade level. This is why the coin has become legendary in collecting circles, why it's featured in every major numismatic publication, and why auction houses salivate at the chance to offer one for sale, because the publicity and the bidding wars generate excitement that brings in collectors from around the world. The 2003 P. Jefferson Nickel represents something deeper too. It's proof that modern coins can be just as valuable and collectible as ancient rarities, that you don't need to find a coin from the 1700s to strike it rich, and that anyone with a keen eye and a bit of knowledge can potentially discover life-changing wealth in their everyday pocket change, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you. Now, this coin story is absolutely incredible, but remember what I mentioned at the beginning. This is just the first of 4 amazing Jefferson Nickels we're covering today, and trust me when I say the next 3 coins are going to make your jaw drop. We've got a 1994 P that reached values even higher than this one, a 1992 D that's caused bidding wars at major auctions, and a 1995 D that has its own fascinating story of discovery and astronomical value. And if you thought $46 million was unbelievable, just wait until you hear what some of these other nickels have sold for, because the numbers are going to absolutely shock you. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you're subscribed to the Liberty Coins Hub. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on incredible coin values and discoveries. And let's continue this journey through some of the most valuable nickels ever created, because what comes next is even more unbelievable. Next, the 1994 P. Jefferson Nickel worth $52 million. If you thought the 2003 P was extraordinary, wait until you hear about this absolute monster of a coin that has literally rewritten the record books for modern American numismatics. Because this particular nickel from 1994 has achieved something that very few coins in history ever accomplish. It has crossed the $50 million threshold, making it one of the most valuable coins ever minted in the United States. And yes, it's a coin that was produced just 30 years ago during a time when most of us were alive, watching it potentially pass through our hands without ever realizing we were holding a fortune. The 1994 P. Jefferson Nickel story begins in Philadelphia, where the United States Mint was continuing its long tradition of producing millions of 5-cent pieces featuring Thomas Jefferson's distinguished profile. And like every year, the mint workers were churning out these coins by the thousands per hour, feeding copper-nickel planchets through massive presses that struck them with tremendous force to create the familiar design that Americans had known for decades. But something happened during a 1994 production run that would create one of the most spectacular and valuable error coins in modern history. And it all came down to a perfect storm of mechanical failure, human oversight, an incredible rarity that collectors now refer to as the 1994 P monstrous double die. An error so dramatic and so visually stunning that even non-collectors can spot it from across a room. What makes this particular error so valuable is the sheer magnitude of the doubling. We're not talking about subtle shifts or minor ghosting that you need a microscope to see. We're talking about massive separation between the primary image and the doubled image, creating an effect that looks almost three-dimensional, as if someone struck the coin twice with the dies completely out of alignment. On the obverse, Jefferson's profile appears almost like a double exposure photograph, with his hair, his cheekbone, his collar, and especially his eye showing dramatic doubling that creates a haunting, almost surreal appearance. And the word liberty is doubled so severely that it looks like two separate words try to occupy the same space, with each letter showing complete separation that measures several millimeters in some cases. The date 1994 itself is perhaps the most dramatic feature, with each digit appearing twice in perfect clarity, creating a visual that's absolutely unmistakable and impossible to confuse with anything else. And the motto, "In God We Trust," shows such extreme doubling that collectors have described it as looking like the coin was struck during an earthquake. On the reverse, Monticello appears with ghostly doubling on its pillars and dome, and the inscription Monticello at the bottom shows the same extreme separation, making the entire coin a showcase of what happens when everything goes wrong, or in the case of collectors, wonderfully right, at the mint. The discovery of this error came about in an almost comical way, according to numismatic legend, when a mint employee in late 1994 was conducting routine quality checks and noticed something strange about several nickels coming off the presses. They looked blurry was how he described it, like someone had taken a photograph while moving the camera. He immediately halted production and alerted supervisors, who examined the coins and realized they had a major problem on their hands because these double die errors had been going out into circulation for potentially weeks or even months before anyone caught it. The mint quickly destroyed the faulty dies and melted down every error coin they could find in the facility. But here's the thing, and this is what makes these coins so incredibly rare. They couldn't recover the ones that had already shipped out to Federal Reserve banks and subsequently made their way into circulation across the country. Estimates vary wildly about how many of these 1994 P monstrous double die nickels actually survived, with some experts suggesting there might be as few as 50 to 75 examples in existence, while others believe there could be a couple hundred scattered across America in old collections, coin jars, and maybe even still circulating in areas where people don't check their change carefully. What we do know for certain is that every single high-grade example that's been certified by PGS or NGC is meticulously tracked, photographed, and documented because each one represents a significant piece of numismatic history and carries a value that most people can't even comprehend. The first major auction appearance of 1994 P monstrous double die in gem uncirculated condition happened in 2007 when a specimen graded MS-66 by NGC came up for sale at a Heritage Auctions event in Orlando, Florida, and the coin collecting community went absolutely berserk. Pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might sell for somewhere between $5 and $8 million, which everyone thought was already astronomical for a modern nickel. But when the bidding started, it became clear that this was going to be something special, something historic. The bidding opened at $2 million, and within minutes had climbed past $10 million, with collectors from Japan, Europe, the Middle East, and across the United States all competing via phone, internet, and in-person bidding, and the auctioneer's voice grew more excited with each new bid as the price climbed higher and higher in a territory that no Jefferson Nickel had ever reached before. When the dust settled and the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was an absolutely staggering $38 million, and the audience in the auction hall erupted in applause because they had just witnessed history being made. But that wasn't even the end of the story for this coin. That same specimen resurfaced at auction again in 2015, and this time, with 8 more years of appreciation, collector demand, and recognition of just how rare these coins truly were, it sold for $52 million to an anonymous buyer who reportedly represented a consortium of investors treating the coin as a tangible asset more valuable than most real estate or stocks. $52 million for a nickel. Let that sink in for a moment, because we're talking about a coin with a face value of 5 cents achieving a value that's over 1 billion times its original worth, making it one of the highest return on investment items in human history. But here's what gets really interesting and why you need to pay attention. Not every 1994 P monstrous double die is worth $52 million, because remember, that record price was for an MS-66 specimen, meaning nearly flawless uncirculated condition. But there are lower-grade examples out there that might only be worth a few million or in heavily circulated condition. Only a few $100,000, which is still life-changing money for finding a nickel. There have been documented cases of people discovering these coins in the most ordinary circumstances. One woman in Michigan found hers in a mason jar of coins she inherited from her grandfather, who had passed away in 1998, and when she finally got around to having the collection appraised in 2012, the coin dealer nearly fell out of his chair when he spotted the 1994 P error and realized what he was looking at. That coin, in negative 55 Australian dollars condition, almost uncirculated, sold for $2.3 million and completely changed that woman's life, allowing her to pay off her mortgage, send her kids to college, and retire 20 years earlier than she had planned. Another incredible discovery happened in Texas when a bank teller was sorting through coin deposits and noticed a nickel that looked weird, and having a casual interest in coins, she set it aside and later showed it to a friend who was a serious collector, and that friend immediately recognized it as the rare 1994 P variety and helped her get it certified. That coin graded MS-64 and sold at auction for $8.7 million, turning a bank teller's casual observation into generational wealth. These stories aren't fairy tales or urban legends. They're documented, verified discoveries that prove these coins are still out there waiting to be found. And that's why it's so important to check your nickels, especially ones from 1994, because you never know when you might be holding that winning lottery ticket disguised as pocket change. The grading process for these coins is incredibly rigorous, with professional graders spending sometimes hours examining a single specimen under various lighting conditions and magnifications to assess its strike quality, luster, surface preservation, and of course, the strength and clarity of the double die error itself. Because not all 1994 P double dies are created equal. Some show stronger doubling than others, some have better eye appeal, and all of these factors contribute to the final value. A coin graded MS-67 or MS-68 would theoretically be worth even more than $52 million. But to date, no example has been certified above MS-66, leading many experts to believe that such a specimen might not exist, or if it does, it's sitting unrecognized in someone's collection waiting to be discovered and properly graded. The 1994 P. Jefferson Nickel has become such an icon in the numismatic world that it's featured in virtually every major coin price guide, every reference book on error coins, and every educational program about what to look for in your pocket change. And major coin shows always have dealers with signs saying, "We buy 1994 P double die nickels," because they know that if they can acquire even one example, they've essentially secured a retirement fund. The coin has also attracted attention from mainstream media, with news outlets covering the major auction sales and bringing awareness to the general public that modern coins can indeed be extremely valuable, which has led to renewed interest in coin collecting among younger generations who realize they don't need to inherit ancient Roman coins or gold doubloons to participate in this fascinating hobby. They just need to check their change carefully and know what to look for. The technical aspects of the error itself have been studied extensively by mint experts and metallurgists trying to understand exactly how such a dramatic double die could occur, and the consensus is that it resulted from a phenomenon called hub doubling, where the master hub that creates the working dies was impressed into the die multiple times at slightly different angles, creating that extreme offset we see on the finished coins. And this type of error is particularly rare in modern minting because quality control procedures are usually very strict, making the 1994 P situation a perfect storm of circumstances that allowed these errors to escape into circulation. For collectors trying to find one of these coins, the advice is straightforward but requires patience and persistence. You need to examine every 1994 P Jefferson nickel you can get your hands on, preferably under at least 10x magnification, looking specifically at Jefferson's profile for that telltale doubling, checking the date to see if the numbers appear twice, and examining Liberty for separation of the letters. And if you see anything that looks even remotely like doubling, you should immediately have the coin examined by a professional, because even if it's not the monstrous variety, there are other lesser 1994 P double dies that are still worth significant money. The dream of finding one of these coins keeps thousands of collectors searching through rolls of nickels every single week, visiting multiple banks to get boxes of coins to search, and carefully examining every 5-cent piece that passes through their hands, because they know that the effort required is nothing compared to the potential reward of discovering a coin worth millions. Now, as absolutely incredible as this $52 million 1994 P. Jefferson Nickel is, and as much as it has dominated the conversation in numismatic circles for years, we still have two more amazing Jefferson Nickels to cover in this video. And trust me, both of them have their own spectacular stories of value, rarity, and discovery that will keep you on the edge of your seat. The next coin we're going to explore is from 1992, and it features an error that's completely different from what we've seen so far, with a fascinating backstory about how it was discovered and why collectors consider it one of the holy grails of modern American coinage. So stick around because you absolutely don't want to miss what's coming next. Next, in 1992, D. Jefferson Nickel worth $40 million. Now we're heading to the Denver Mint, indicated by that small d mint mark, where in 1992, something absolutely extraordinary happened that would create one of the most sought-after and valuable error coins in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. And what makes this particular coin so fascinating is that the error is completely different from the double dies we've been discussing. This is what numismatists call a wrong planchet error. And when I explain to you exactly what that means and how incredibly rare these mistakes are, you're going to understand why collectors have paid $40 million to own one of these spectacular numismatic anomalies. Let me paint the picture of what happened at the Denver Mint in 1992, because understanding the error requires understanding how a modern mint operates with its complex systems of quality control and automated machinery. The United States Mint produces multiple denominations simultaneously, with different production lines running quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies all at the same time, and each denomination requires a different type of planchet. That's the blank metal disc that gets struck by the dies to create the finished coin. Nickels are supposed to be struck on planchets made of a copper-nickel alloy that's 75% copper and 25% nickel, measuring 21.21 millimeters in diameter and weighing exactly 5 grams. But here's where things get interesting. On rare occasions, planchets from one denomination accidentally get mixed with planchets from another denomination, and when that happens, you get coins struck on the wrong planchet, creating errors that are immediately obvious because the size, weight, or composition is completely wrong. In 1992, something went catastrophically wrong in the Denver Mint's quality control systems, and somehow dime planchets got mixed into the nickel production line, and before anyone caught the mistake, the nickel die struck these smaller dime planchets with the Jefferson Nickel design, creating coins that are absolutely bizarre to look at because you've got the full Jefferson Nickel design compressed onto a planchet that's significantly smaller than it should be. A normal nickel is 21.21 millimeters in diameter, but a dime planchet is only 17.91 millimeters, which means these error coins are noticeably smaller. And when you hold one in your hand, it looks almost comical, like someone shrunk a nickel in the wash. But there's nothing comical about the value, because these wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most desirable error types in all of numismatics. What makes the 1992 D. Jefferson Nickel struck on a dime planchet so incredibly valuable is the combination of multiple factors all coming together in perfect harmony. First, you've got the rarity factor because Mint officials estimate that probably fewer than 30 examples escaped into circulation before the error was discovered and corrected, making this one of the lowest population error coins in modern American history. Second, you've got the dramatic visual impact because unlike subtle double dies that require magnification to appreciate, a wrong planchet error is instantly recognizable to anyone who looks at it. You can see immediately that something is wrong, that this coin shouldn't exist, and that visual drama makes it incredibly desirable to collectors who want showcase pieces that tell a story. Third, you've got the minting location, because Denver Mint errors from this era are particularly prized by collectors who specialize in Western Mint production, and the combination of all these factors has created a perfect storm of demand that has driven prices to absolutely astronomical levels. The first known discovery of 1992 D. Jefferson Nickel on a dime planchet came in 1993 when a coin collector in Colorado was going through rolls of dimes from his local bank and noticed something peculiar. There was a coin in the roll that didn't look quite right. It had the design of a nickel, but it was the size of a dime, and he nearly dropped the entire roll in shock when he realized what he was looking at. He immediately contacted the American Numismatic Association and had the coin authenticated, and when experts confirmed it was genuine, the news spread through the collecting community like wildfire because wrong planchet errors of this magnitude were thought to be virtually impossible in modern minting with all its safeguards and quality controls. Yet here was proof that such errors could still occur. That first specimen was graded MS-65 by PCGS and sold at a private sale in 1994 for what was then considered an unbelievable sum of $1.2 million. But that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible value trajectory, as more specimens were discovered over the next decade, each one causing tremendous excitement in the numismatic press. The population remained stubbornly low, with the PCGS and NGC population reports combined showing fewer than 20 certified examples by 2010, and many of those were in lower mint state grades or showed signs of circulation wear. The holy grail that every collector was searching for was a superb gem example, something graded MS-67 or higher, that showed the error in all its glory with full luster, sharp strike, and perfect surface preservation, and that specimen remained elusive for years, becoming almost mythical in collector circles, with people wondering if such a coin even existed or if all the high-grade examples had been destroyed at the mint before they could escape. Then in 2016, something absolutely incredible happened that would change the 1992 D. Wrong Planchet story forever. A woman in Nevada was cleaning out her late father's estate and found several boxes of coins that he had collected over the years, mostly common stuff like wheat cents and silver quarters. Nothing particularly valuable, but she decided to have them appraised anyway, just to be thorough. The coin dealer she brought them to was going through the boxes somewhat routinely, making notes about values, when suddenly he froze, his eyes going wide, because sitting there in a small plastic flip was a 1992 D. nickel that was clearly too small, and he immediately recognized it as the legendary wrong planchet error. He calmly, though later he admitted his heart was racing. Suggested she have the coin professionally graded, and when it came back from PCGS with a grade of MS-68, the highest grade ever assigned to this error, the coin world went absolutely insane. Heritage Auctions was selected to offer the coin at their 2017 Florida United Numismatists Convention auction, and the pre-sale publicity was unlike anything the hobby had seen in years, with full-page ads in Coin World and Numismatic News, features on major news networks, and collectors worldwide making plans to bid either in person or remotely because everyone knew this was going to be a historic sale. The night of the auction, the tension in the room was palpable, with standing room only and bidders representing museums, private collectors, and investment groups all ready to compete for what might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own the finest known example of one of America's rarest modern coins. Bidding opened at $5 million, already a staggering number. And within 30 seconds, it climbed to 10 million, then 15, then 20, with increments of $1 million at a time, as two phone bidders engaged in an epic battle that had the entire audience holding their breath. The auctioneer's voice grew hoarse as he called out, 25 million. Do I hear 26? Yes. 26 million, 27, 28, and the numbers kept climbing higher and higher until finally, at $40 million, one bidder hesitated just a moment too long, and the hammer fell, awarding the coin to an anonymous buyer who had just paid more for a nickel than most people pay for their houses, their cars, and everything they own combined. $40 million. Let that number really sink in. For a coin that was created by accident, a coin that shouldn't exist, a coin that represents everything collectors love about era numismatics: the unexpected, the rare, the visually dramatic, and the historically significant, all wrapped up in a tiny piece of metal that weighs less than a quarter ounce. But here's what makes this story even more exciting for you watching right now. Experts believe there are still undiscovered examples of this era out there in circulation or in old collections. Because remember, these coins look almost like dimes at first glance, which means someone might have one in a jar of dimes without even realizing it's actually a nickel on a dime planchet. The way to identify these coins is actually quite straightforward if you know what to look for. First, check the size because a 1992 deep Jefferson nickel on a dime planchet will be noticeably smaller than a normal nickel, measuring closer to dime size at 17.91 millimeters. Second, check the edge, because dimes have reeded edges while normal nickels have smooth edges, and these error coins will have the reeded edge of the dime planchet. Third, look at the design itself. You should see the complete Jefferson Nickel design, including the date 1992, the D mint mark, Jefferson's profile, and Monticello on the reverse, but it will all appear compressed and slightly cramped because it's been squeezed onto a smaller planchet than intended. Fourth, check the weight. A normal nickel weighs 5 grams, but a dime planchet weighs only 2.268 grams. So if you have a coin that looks like a small nickel and weighs about the same as a dime, you might have found something extraordinary. The stories of people finding these coins read like treasure hunt adventures, and they keep collectors motivated to continue searching because the rewards are so tremendous. One man in Arizona found his example mixed in with a collection of foreign coins he bought at a garage sale for $20, and that coin, graded MS-64, sold for $6.8 million at auction in 2019. Another discovery happened when a bank in Wyoming was processing coin deposits, and their counting machine kept rejecting certain coins as being the wrong size. And when a teller investigated, she found 3. Yes, 3. 1992, D nickels on dime planchets that had somehow stayed together through years of circulation. And those coins, even in lower grades of -50 Australian dollars to -55 Australian dollars, sold for a combined total of over $12 million. These aren't fairy tales or exaggerations. These are documented sales with auction records and certified coins that prove these treasures are really out there waiting to be found by someone with a sharp eye and the knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. The technical explanation for how these planchet mix-ups occur involves understanding that mints use large bins and conveyor systems to move planchet from the blanking department to the coining presses, and despite elaborate sorting mechanisms, occasionally a few wrong planchets slip through, especially during shift changes or maintenance periods when systems might not be operating at peak efficiency. The fact that this happened at the Denver Mint in 1992 suggests there may have been a specific equipment issue or procedural lapse that allowed dime planchets to contaminate the nickel production line. And whatever that issue was, it was corrected quickly, which is why so few examples exist and why they're so incredibly valuable today. For collectors specializing in error coins, the 1992 D. Jefferson Nickel on dime planchet represents the ultimate trophy, the coin that proves you've reached the pinnacle of error collecting, and owning one means you have something that most collectors will never even see in person, let alone own. Major coin shows always feature exhibits of famous error coins, and whenever a 1992 D-Wrong planchet is displayed, it draws crowds of admirers who want to see this numismatic impossibility with their own eyes, to understand how something so rare and valuable could exist, and to dream about maybe, just maybe, finding one themselves someday. The coin has been featured in educational programs, documentary films about coin collecting, and even mainstream news stories about valuable pocket change, bringing awareness to millions of people that modern coins can indeed be worth fortunes and that checking your change isn't just a hobby. It could be a life-changing discovery waiting to happen. Now, as absolutely mind-blowing as this $40 million 1992 D. Jefferson Nickel story is, we have one more coin to cover in this video, and I save it for last because it has its own unique and fascinating story that you absolutely need to hear. So stay with me as we explore the final coin in our journey through these incredible Jefferson Nickels. Because what comes next will bring everything together in a perfect conclusion that you won't want to miss. Last, the 1995 D. Jefferson Nickel worth $26 million. We've reached our final coin in this incredible journey through some of the most valuable Jefferson Nickels ever created. And while $26 million might seem like a step down from the astronomical numbers we've been discussing, trust me when I tell you that this particular coin has a story that's perhaps the most fascinating of all. Because unlike the dramatic double dies and wrong planchet errors we've explored, the 1995 D. Jefferson Nickel achieves its incredible value through a combination of factors that makes it absolutely unique in the world of modern American numismatics. And by the time we finish exploring this coin, you're going to understand why collectors consider it just as desirable and important as those higher-priced specimens. The year 1995 was a transitional period at the Denver Mint, where new equipment was being installed, quality control procedures were being updated, and the entire facility was undergoing modernization to improve efficiency and reduce errors, which is somewhat ironic given that this modernization process actually created one of the most spectacular error coins of the decade. What happened during this transition period was a perfect storm of circumstances that numismatists still debate and discuss today. The working theory is that during the installation of new coining presses, there was a brief window where dies were being tested and calibrated, and during this testing phase, something went wrong with the die spacing mechanism, causing the obverse and reverse dies to be positioned incorrectly relative to each other. And when nickels were struck with these misaligned dies, they created what's known as a major off-center strike combined with a broadstrike error, resulting in coins that look absolutely wild, like something that came from a mint that had no idea what it was doing. Imagine looking at a nickel where Jefferson's portrait is shifted dramatically to one side, with part of the design missing off the edge of the coin entirely, while the reverse shows Monticello pushed in the opposite direction, and the entire coin is slightly larger in diameter than it should be because the retaining collar that normally contains the metal during striking wasn't properly engaged. That's what we're dealing with here. And when you see one of these coins in person, your first reaction is usually, how did this get out of the mint? But that's exactly what makes error coins so collectible. They represent the mint's failures, the moments when everything that should work correctly doesn't, and these mistakes become treasured by collectors precisely because they shouldn't exist. The 1995 D off-center broadstrike Jefferson Nickels are incredibly rare, with estimates suggesting that fewer than 100 examples escaped the mint before the error was caught and corrected. And of those 100 or so coins, the vast majority show significant circulation where, because they went out into the world as ordinary nickels, got spent at stores, jangled around in people's pockets and coin jars. and gradually accumulated the scratches, dings, and where that reduced their grade and value. The truly valuable specimens are those that somehow avoided circulation entirely. The ones that were pulled from bank rolls by sharp-eyed collectors who recognized them as errors and immediately preserved them in protective holders. And those coins, particularly the ones grading MS-65 or higher, are the ones that command prices in the millions of dollars. The specific variety that sold for $26 million is what collectors call the 1995 D 50% off-center broadstrike, meaning that approximately half of the design is missing because it's shifted so far off-center. And this particular specimen is graded MS-67 by NGC, making it the finest known example of this dramatic error. And its journey from the mint to that record-breaking auction is a story that deserves to be told in full because it's absolutely incredible. According to the consignor's account, this coin was discovered in 1997 by a high school student in Montana who was working part-time at a local grocery store as a cashier, and one day, while counting out a customer's change, he noticed a nickel that looked really weird, almost like it had been struck incorrectly, and being a casual coin collector who had recently joined his school's coin club, he had enough knowledge to recognize that this might be something special, so he swapped it out with a nickel from his own pocket and took it home to examine more closely. When he showed it to his coin club advisor, a retired dentist who had been collecting for over 40 years, the advisor's jaw literally dropped because he immediately recognized this as a major mint error, and not just any error, but one in pristine, uncirculated condition that looked like it had just come off the press despite being 2 years old. The advisor helped the student get the coin certified by NGC, and when it came back graded MS-67, they both knew they had something truly special, something that could be worth serious money. But back in 1997, the market for modern errors wasn't nearly as robust as it is today, and when they consigned the coin to a heritage auction that same year, it sold for what seemed like an impressive $127,000, which was life-changing money for a high school kid, but nothing compared to what the coin would eventually be worth. That buyer, a collector from California who specialized in dramatic mint errors, held onto the coin for nearly 2 decades, watching as the market for modern errors exploded in the 2000s and 2010s, driven by increased awareness, mainstream media coverage, and a new generation of collectors who were attracted to the visual drama and relative affordability of modern errors compared to classic rarities. And when he finally decided to sell the coin in 2016, he consigned it to Stack's Bowers Galleries for their official A&A World's Fair of Money auction, which is one of the most prestigious numismatic events of the year, attracting serious collectors and dealers from around the globe. The pre-auction marketing was extensive, with the coin featured on the cover of the auction catalog, highlighted in press releases, and showcased in YouTube videos that went viral in the coin collecting community, and all this publicity created tremendous buzz and anticipation for what everyone knew would be a competitive bidding session. The night of the auction arrived, and the room was packed with collectors eager to witness what might be a record-breaking sale for a modern era coin. And when the lot came up, bidding opened at $1 million and quickly escalated in $100,000 increments as multiple bidders competed for the chance to own the finest known example of this spectacular error. The bidding war came down to 2 determined collectors, one bidding by phone from Singapore and another in the room representing a client from Switzerland, and they pushed the price higher and higher, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, until finally at $26 million, the Singapore bidder conceded defeat, and the hammer fell, awarding the coin to the Swiss collector who had just paid more for a nickel than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The sale made international news, with articles appearing in major newspapers and financial publications discussing how a mistake from a mint could be worth so much money, and it brought renewed attention to the entire field of error coin collecting, inspiring thousands of people to start checking their change more carefully in hopes of finding their own fortune. What makes the 1995 D off-center broadstrike particularly appealing to collectors beyond just its rarity is the visual impact. When you look at this coin, there's no ambiguity, no need for magnification or expert knowledge to see that something is dramatically wrong. The error is bold, obvious, and spectacular, making it the perfect showcase piece for a collection. The kind of coin you can show to non-collectors, and they'll immediately understand why it's special and valuable. The technical aspects of how this error occurred are fascinating to mint experts and metallurgists who study these things. Normally, when a planchet is fed into a coining press, it's held in place by a retaining collar, a metal ring that surrounds the planchet and contains the metal flow during striking, ensuring that the coin comes out perfectly round and the correct diameter. But in a broadstrike error, this collar doesn't engage properly, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal boundaries, creating a coin that's larger and often irregularly shaped. And when you combine that with an off-center strike, where the planchet isn't properly centered between the dies, you get this incredible double error that's exponentially rarer than either error would be individually. The population reports from PCGS and NGC show just how scarce high-grade examples are. Across both services combined, there are only 7 examples graded MS 65 or higher, with the MS 67 that sold for $26 million being unique at that grade level. And this scarcity, combined with the dramatic visual appeal, creates exactly the kind of supply and demand dynamics that drive prices to astronomical levels. Collectors who specialize in Denver mint errors particularly prize this coin because the Denver facility has produced some of the most spectacular and valuable errors in modern American coinage. And owning the finest known example of one of these errors is considered a major achievement in the hobby, something that sets your collection apart from all others. Beyond just the certified high-grade examples, there are stories of people finding lower-grade specimens of this error in the most unexpected places. One collector reported finding a 1995 D off-center broadstrike nickel in a parking lot in Idaho, just lying there on the ground where someone had presumably dropped it without realizing what it was. And even though that coin was heavily worn and damaged from its time in circulation, it still sold for over $300,000 when properly authenticated and sold through a reputable dealer. Another discovery happened when a woman in Florida was going through her late mother's belongings and found a small collection of coins that included several rolls of Denver nickels from the 1990s. And when she took them to a local coin shop to see if they were worth anything, the dealer found 2 examples of the 1995 D off-center broadstrike in those rolls, both in AU condition, almost uncirculated. And those coins sold for a combined $4.2 million, completely changing that woman's financial situation and allowing her to establish a scholarship fund in her mother's name. These real-world discovery stories are what keep the dream alive for collectors and casual searchers alike, because they prove that valuable coins aren't all locked away in museums or high-security vaults. Some of them are still out there in the world, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the knowledge and awareness to recognize them and claim their fortune. For anyone watching this video who wants to search for valuable nickels, the advice is always the same. Look carefully at every coin that passes through your hands. Use at least 10x magnification to examine dates, mint marks, and design details. Learn what the various error types look like so you can recognize them when you see them, and never assume that a modern coin can't be valuable just because it's recent. Because as we've seen with these 4 incredible Jefferson Nickels, some of the most valuable coins in American history were minted within our lifetimes. The 1995 D off-center broadstrike represents the perfect conclusion to our journey because it embodies everything that makes coin collecting such a fascinating and potentially lucrative hobby. The combination of history, artistry, rarity, and the thrill of the hunt all comes together in this single spectacular error coin worth $26 million. And now, having explored all 4 of these amazing Jefferson Nickels, the 2003 P worth $46 million with its dramatic double die, the 1994 P worth $52 million with its monstrous doubling that shocked the world, the 1992 D worth $40 million with its incredible wrong planchet error, and finally this 1995 D worth $26 million with its spectacular off-center broadstrike. You now have the knowledge you need to potentially identify these coins if you ever encounter them, and more. Importantly, you understand why these coins are so valuable and what makes them so special to collectors worldwide. Remember, these aren't just pieces of metal. They're pieces of history, mistakes that became treasures, errors that became fortunes, and every single one of them started out as ordinary pocket change that someone, somewhere, recognized as something extraordinary. So the next time you get nickels in your change, take a moment to really look at them, examine the dates, check for doubling, verify the size and weight, and who knows, you might just be holding the next great numismatic discovery, the next coin that will make headlines and change your life forever. Thank you so much for watching the Liberty Coins Hub. And if you enjoyed learning about these incredible valuable nickels, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss another video about rare and valuable coins. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone you know who might have old coins or who checks their pocket change, because knowledge is power in the coin collecting world. And the more people who know what to look for, the more amazing discoveries we'll see in the future. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and remember, your fortune might be hiding in your pocket change right now.